Hello YouTube, I hope you are well and thank you for the opportunity to chat with you today. This is going to be another long one. I was tempted to make little videos about specific subjects, but I just don't have the time. Now, a note that you may be interested in, the channel is going to be down until at least mid-April, but I wanted to get this out in an orderly fashion. Also, I do have several videos that I had not released that I may release during this time in order to provide some sense of continuity in my absence. However, I will be addressing all comments as I have the opportunity to do so. Speaking of comment sections, let's keep it clean. If you troll, or if you act inappropriately in immature ways, your comment will be deleted and you will be blocked. There will be no discussion. That's just the way it is. Now, the visuals will be lacking on this video, I admit, but I hope that the content is worth your time. I am sure you will tell me if it is not. I do apologize for the music in the background. As you all know, music helps me to concentrate, and if it is a hindrance, I am trying a new recording technique, so I may be able to filter out the music if enough of you complain, and I hope that you won't, because that's just additional work. So this may or may not be of interest to you. It is a continuation of an exchange with a YouTuber known as LoneStarr1776. Yes, LoneStarr, it is true. The biggest apparent difference we have is that you are a believer and advocate for Christianity, and I am not. However, I give individuals the benefit of the doubt when discussing various topics or when just getting to know them. I try very hard not to assume. I am aware of the fallacy of converse accident when categorizing another. You see, it is apparent to me that if you've seen one, you haven't necessarily seen them all. With this said, let's get into it. If I understand you correctly, you see this path of faith in Jesus as mandatory for the salvation of the planet. This lens that you have, this belief system, provides you certain options. At the beginning of your two-part reply, you question my thoughts regarding the Bible. Well, it is accepted as the authoritative manual. You see it as a book that sets people free. I respect this is your stance. I cannot invest in that general inclusive concept for many reasons. This book is reported to be without flaw. First, I question the accuracy of such claim. Many authors were involved. The authors themselves appear to be recording within the oral tradition. This alone demands I question any claim of truth and legitimacy. I would not go so far to say the Bible has no truth in it. However, I find it mandatory. Yeah, I find it mandatory to examine it and not merely accept it as is. Also, this book is filled full of contradictions. Why would a God of perfection allow an inerrant document to be filled with opposition between two conflicting ideas? I would like to call your attention to a book that was authored by one named Donald Morgan. It is called Bible Inconsistencies, Bible Contradictions. If you look into that, you will have more understanding as to why I see things the way that I do. Thomas Paine is recorded as stating, quote, "The most formidable weapon against errors of every kind is reason," end quote. If your holy book is without flaw, then it should be able to be received without interpretation or embellishment. However, when one does so, we that are investigating its words, its lessons, are presented with a maze of issues. Also, it makes no sense that an all-powerful God would allow this to be an issue. You would think that clarity would be of the utmost importance. The absence of steady continuity alone is troubling and yields quite a mess, literally speaking. So, in short, this is what I think of that work. I just don't invest much stock in it, but I do acknowledge that there are some jewels within. I have found some that have given me much to think about. I'll leave it at that. Now, I will address various points in your video as they come to mind. I am making my response as I drive from the airport to my new residence for the next several months. This may be a little rough around the edges. I do apologize for that. But as I said, I wanted to get this out in a timely fashion. I do not have my notes with me, and I will be jumping around quite a bit, but hopefully you'll be able to follow me, and if for whatever reason this document does not gel well with you, I will attempt to represent it at a later time. However, that may be several months down the road. As far as my comment of not knowing any black people that voted for Obama, let's just put that to rest right now. One, I can admittedly be very irritatingly literal and very specific when it comes to word selection. When I say no, I meant it as it is defined, being familiar or acquainted with. And I don't throw that around because no suggests a certain type of intimacy. Now, most of the black people I am surrounded by did not want to talk to me about politics because they learned what it was like to talk to me about religion. And most of the black people I know are religious, on a scale of moderately religious to extremely religious. So that cuts down the numbers quite a bit. I do not speak about politics as a matter of principle with family members as it keeps down drama. I also follow this principle with most of my friends that are black. So yes, it was an accurate depiction. I do not fault black people for voting for Obama because he was quote unquote black, even though we know that he is technically biracial. I will not say that he is black when I am trying to be specific in my worldview, because even though he claims it, I do not think he can relate deeply with the struggle of descendants of slaves, since he is not one. However, I will fault black people for thinking that he would help us to make our position more visible and to possibly make things better as we strive to achieve the American dream. After all, he seems to be not an American president. I'll repeat that. After all, he seems not an American president, for he definitely has forsaken black people. And if you don't think so, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I got a property here that you may be interested in, okay? I can get it to you for cheap. He does have a hankering for special interest groups, you gotta admit. I'm going to say this for the last time, and if anybody brings this up to me, I'm just going to refer them to this video. Even if every black person voted for him, it would not matter much. We constitute no more than 13% of the population. It was women that put Obama in office. This turnaround. It was women. It was especially white women that came forth in huge numbers. This had to do with the arrogance of the GOP, in my opinion. Also, never underestimate the power of your standing position on abortion and body autonomy when it comes to female voters. Obama received 71% of the so-called Hispanic vote. That is roughly 10% of all votes cast. He also won the unmarried women's vote with 67% and lost the married women's side, but secured 46% of that vote. But here is something you, Lone Star, may be interested in. Before I left my former residence, I looked this up. It appears 42% of the Protestant Christian vote went to Obama in 2012. 42%. 21% of that was self-identified born-again white evangelical Christians. Wow. So, did they vote for Obama because he was black? See, this only comes up, this concern for voting for someone if they're black, when we're addressing black voters. Why is that? Who obviously do not have a problem voting for white people. We have been doing it for years. Actually, as it relates to the issue of Obama's legitimacy of being able to function as the president, I said I had my doubts about your intent. I do not think that that was a low blow. Now, yeah, I will admittedly state that I thought that maybe race may be an issue based on some of the things that you have said in the past, but I gave you the benefit of the doubt. And also, I will admit, another reason why that is was because you seem to be akin in spirit to various Tea Party members I have had conversations with. Also, you cannot deny, unfortunately, on all sides, that race seems to be a factor on whether or not one will be selected, depending upon the area of the United States that one may dwell in. I personally find this type of action appalling, but people do it. Did I want to see a black man in office, you may ask? Yes, I definitely did, but there are conditions involved. Only if he was qualified to do the job, demonstrated unfaltering integrity, had a voting record that I could agree with, held a favorable position regarding various topics that are important to me, and was savvy regarding the plight of the poor and the common man, and was dedicated to addressing those issues. Those were my particular qualifications, actually, that anyone that I would vote for president would have to have. But it was definitely true as it relates to a black president. Because in my personal opinion, a black president would indeed be more heavily scrutinized and should be able to pull his weight without question. I did formulate 2 videos where I question his ability to be president due to not being, by my understanding, a natural-born citizen, as I understand the definition of natural-born citizen to be. However, those particular videos were quickly flagged down in less than a day. We have to ask the right questions and be willing to take unpopular positions. You have demonstrated this, and this is why I subscribe to you. Don't think that other people don't also have this ability. However, you do have plenty of racist loons that do not make it easy to address this, that share your thoughts in regards to his position as legitimate or not, and share my concerns as well. I will not deny that both the left and the right have their dirty tricks. Neither side is clean. I do not subscribe to investing in either Democrats or Republicans or Libertarians for that matter. I see fault in all of them. I understand the game on a much deeper level, I would like to think. Some liberals have resorted to saying that everything that came up in opposition of Obama was racist. I found that to be a cop-out of royal proportions. That was completely a bogus move. It was obvious that some racism exists when it comes to Obama. There is no doubt. But not everything that is brought in opposition to him, or these things that he is challenged by, not all of these things are racist. It was obvious they used this technique, which hurt us that actually had genuine grievances, as a tactic to limit or destroy discussion. It appeared to me, based on the evidence, that indeed he is a foreign national. Heck, I also did a video, so now we're up to 3 videos regarding my state senator, Claire McCaskill. Capital M, lowercase c, capital Caskill. I always have a way of butchering her name. I do apologize. She is a Democrat from my home state of Missouri. She penned the bill S2678, Children of Military Families Natural Born Citizens Act, in case you're not familiar with it. It was co-sponsored by Senator Obama at that time and Senator Hillary Clinton at that time, where they attempted, now this is back in 2008, mind you, and they were senators, mind you. So shortly before, not too terribly long before the election, where they attempted to change Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5, that is Article 2, Section 1, Clause 5 of the Constitution. This was with reference to the requirements of being a natural-born citizen. Think about it. I sarcastically stated it within this video and thought I put together some really good things to be thought about and some questions that I was hoping people will chime in on. I found it to be really interesting and a necessary topic of discussion that they orchestrated this move, and then the legitimate question of his eligibility comes forth and is swept up under the rug. Yet, again, this video was terminated. So I didn't bitch and moan about it to anyone. I just moved on. Do I think there is an agenda for the white race to dominate non-whites? Well, if I was to allow emotions to guide me, and if I was to not look at the evidence on all sides, as I understand it, not just from my personal experience as a black man, I may jump on that train. That is a generalization I cannot invest in. There's just not enough evidence to support that. Now, I can indeed say that there are certain individuals and certain groups that are primarily white that indeed have this as a goal, to dominate. But not only that, these people want to dominate over the poor whites as well. When I made the statement that I am beginning to think that white genocide is code for white domination, I was making reference to the application of what is known as practical politics. This video that you were so enthused to support in regards to white genocide, well, the meat and potatoes orbits around the claim that anti-racist equals anti-white. Now, I see this reasoning as an excuse for certain white nationals to invalidate that genuine concern for racism can exist without it being an attack on whites. Dealing with racism should demand, in my opinion, attention to specific dynamics, no matter if we are dealing with a group perspective or limiting things to an individual road. This meme, anti-racist is anti-white, or anti-racist equals anti-white. This meme, this cultural unit, functions as a diversion from actuality. It also is a tool, a very sharp tool sometimes, and a very blunt tool other times. Think of it as software for the minds of the recipient. It serves the agenda of White Rabbit very well. White Rabbit refers to practical politics directly when making reference to the use of this meme. In this medium of social interactions online, one does not have to vote to advance a political agenda. Well, the same can be said in the quote-unquote real world. With this tool, he has stated it is for the purpose of working under the law without breaking the law. Again, he has directly stated that the use of this meme is for the reason of working under the law without breaking the law. Basically, he is confessing this is a method by which one can sabotage the conventional system of national discourse, national debate, and eliminate the need for acknowledgement regarding the favor of the people. This places us in a war of ideas in this land of racial indoctrination called YouTube and other social mediums. A place where one is banking on emotionalism to carry one away from reason. This is easy to do in this marketplace. Now, you can say very easily, I don't know if this is his intention or not. Okay, that's fair. However, the data is out there. The information is out there. I am quoting from several videos that have been deleted from YouTube. I cannot mirror them, for I do not want to be accused of any infringement of intellectual property. I think that you can understand this. I am sure you can find this information out there. There have been several series produced by this White Rabbit for the sole purpose of informing the ground soldiers how to promote this race for power, this race for land, this race for maintaining or generating various states, political and societal states. How could one, Lone Star, I ask you, how could one not see this as an attempt to usurp the system for the sake of racial politics? Also, this video that you support is insidious because it is a very effective method of indoctrination. It is not a matter of whites not being able to promote their own interest. I have no stock in that. They should be allowed to do so, along with every other group. But ethnocentric dreams that act as a virus and crumbles the structure of America, well, this appears to be the final outcome of certain racial nationalists, their wet dream. Today, in this highly stressed economy where resources are closely guarded, it is common spin to announce that equality is a deceitful pretense for non-whites. Again, that equality is a deceitful pretense for non-whites. That it is only a way of moving up in a supposed white country. Or once white country. So, this crap claim is then used as evidence that supposedly supports the practical consideration of suppressing whites from advancing themselves collectively. Racism is pushed by politics such as this and the media. This, in my opinion, is yet another way of feeding the New World Order, which really isn't new at all, or neo-feudalism or hegemony, whatever you wish to label it as. It is a system of stratification of individuals. It always is in these types of situations. Hence, it becomes easier and it helps, actually, this New World Order that you speak about. These types of videos and the actual content behind the superficial content actually makes it easier for people to disconnect from other people, not just simply connect to their own self-interest. Hence, it becomes easier when people have their cultural identities marginalized, yes, I do agree, and their identical makeup replaced when offering an official programming, whether it comes from the government or whether it comes from an entity like White Rabbit. This reduces the number of components in this strata, no matter if you're talking about the challengers to the New World Order or the challengers to supposed white interest, and allows for much easier control. Do you see any parallels here, or are you still in opposition and just think I'm making this shit up? It allows the few to enslave the many. The real problem, in my opinion, is this. We have a world that is filled with people who are either indifferent, lazy, or content with their programming. These quote-unquote useless eaters are willful slaves for the most part. Though some may be waking up, which I truly hate that phrase, but most of what they've been taught is a complete and utter fabrication. All we have to do is use the banking system as proof positive to make my point. I will give you an example so my point is clear. Okay, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the banking system to drive this home. Had to wait for that truck to pass. Pretty loud. Humans are fond of their ruses. Banks are not needed. What is needed is an accounting system which limits itself to providing and demonstrates via complete transparency that no criminal offenses is made against any of us that participate in it. What we get is exploitation via promissory obligations we have among us. We allow these criminals to charge us interest for the honor of being hoodwinked and robbed. What we have are local and central banks that risk nothing of its own. Nothing. We create the value of money, we the people, not banking institutions. We do it by giving up the value of our work to them. Yet these banks steal the value we set by merely publishing a representation of that value. One that we originally give up to each other via our labor. We must remember that our production and labor to each other has the only value. Yet we allow the lie of money creation to continue. It is merely evidence, money that is merely evidence of production. Yet, within the ruse, it is created, supposedly, when a borrower, a supposed borrower, issues a promissory note before there is any banking entry. No debt or loan is owed to any bank or said publisher who only states insincerely that they loan us money. Indeed, we are on a plantation. Yeah, welcome to the reservation, right? However, let's address this process of drawing lines of distinction. Now, discerning differences and understanding what is appropriate for oneself is one thing, LoneStarr. Exaggerating differences to fuel scientific racism, establishing societal worth due to trends and group formulatic renderings, or to provide a blanket justification for wrongdoing, or to establish another as morally superior by virtue of one's genetic makeup is unacceptable and obtuse. The problem is one of psychopathy. We have many people who suffer from this. This is the root, the real root. As I have said before, this country, given culture, is rich with nutrients for this sort of individual to prosper, to develop, to hone their skills. It stands to reason that so many of our rulers are of this disease state. Yet there is a hierarchy of them based on connections, ability, and opportunity. They have a burning desire to rule over not only us, but those that they deem that are within their group as less capable. So we cannot afford to be so naive to assume that the intentions of one is simply to promote self-interest. Plus, even if one rids themselves of suspicion, it is wise to understand the composition of that individual or group's self-interest. What is it really? Now, getting to this equalizing of differences, it is assumed by many white nationalists, ultra-conservatives, race realists, etc., that non-white groups have to equalize the environment, normally via legislation, to equalize the great disparity of potential that supposedly is evident between races. Sorry, but that is bullshit. And I hope that you are not coming from this perspective, because I have a lot more to say about this if you are. Now, it is interesting that you bring up Al and Jesse, LoneStarr. This is the pinnacle of expected responses. I remember a conversation that you and I had where you questioned me and you gave me a short list. None of the people that I would put on the list, by the way, but you gave me a short list of people, and you included Dr. Manning, that self-hating black person that supposedly employs tough love but betrays his disgust of black people in general, not a specific group of people who are behaving poorly. But if I remember correctly, you would have endorsed him easily for president. Now, I think that if you're going to toss the first stone, so to speak, at Al and Jesse, that you better be willing to toss a stone in Dr. Manning's direction as well. So again, what do you mean by government subsidies and this qualifier of entitlement that you used before it? I have to assume that you are addressing housing subsidies. I have no evidence that blacks have been conditioned to believe that they should be entitled to low-income housing any more than another who needs help in purchasing a residential property for the first time. One has to apply that there is a process, and that if that process is followed, that only those individuals that qualify would get said assistance. So it would be interesting to get more information in regards to what you mean by this and your position on entitlements, etc., as it relates to your thoughts as a white man on how you see Black America. Now, for abortion, yes, our difference here is probably promoted due to your general worldview, my general worldview, and various applied belief systems. I am a huge supporter of body autonomy. I know you probably think the body is likened to a temple and that we are not owners of our body, that God owns all. At least this is the standard Christian position. However, I will not debate if it is wrong or right. I will say this. We have the right to determine how we use our bodies. Some want to say you do if you are determining whether or not you wish to consume GMOs, aspartame, or other neurotoxins, but not when it comes to deciding if you want to abort. No. Then you do not have the right to make decisions regarding your own body. Interesting how that works. Well, I see this reasoning as a show of convenience. And I also see it as being very disingenuous, controlling. I offer we agree to disagree here. I will say this. No one is forcing black women to have abortions. I don't care how many Planned Parenthoods are put in black communities. Now, am I suspect regarding Planned Parenthood being put in so many poor neighborhoods? Yes and no. One, because of their history. Yes, I am suspect about that. But no, because poor neighborhoods, in my understanding, tend to have a higher level of pregnancy concerns and should have the option of employing the right to exercise selection of abortion. I do know that there are people who practice eugenics and would do everything they could to wipe out blacks or to keep them from procreating. Women have a right to make decisions regarding how they wish to use their body. However, hopefully with the partner with whom they could not be pregnant without, because they should be thought of as being in this together and not just exclusively the woman. And I know that's an unpopular position, but I'm sticking with it. Hopefully together they can determine what the proper course of action will be. They went into it together, they should go out of it together. Now, Rudy, we are not the Borg. Our differences are not something to be ashamed of or to surrender to groups who wish to dilute the concentration of all of us. Non-whites have been addressing this for years. Since the low birth rates have become such a hot topic, there has been an issue of numerical presence. The decline of numbers, which affects one's power, alters their dominant presence. It is this that I think many white people are truly concerned about, that press this anti-racist is anti-white bullshit. They are simply standing their ground against the New World Order. Really? How bogus. Maybe you are, and I'm not saying that you're not, but not everybody is likened to you or myself. We all have a vested interest in progressing without the surrender of that which makes us unique as a subset of humanity or as individuals. Okay? I have been promoting for years that we find it within ourselves to form solidarity for the preservation of mankind, Rudy, in opposition to those who have a vested interest for our demise. However, the point always comes up when speaking of this: why should any non-white work with whites when history has shown, whether it was the feminist movement, unions, etc., the time whites who share our joint concerns are satisfied, they're satisfied that the threat has been destroyed. That is, that they will turn on us or employ a disconnect as if our help was never needed. So, though I agree with you, in spirit, I see the merit of historical knowledge. If groups can tend to their own weaknesses and work together under a different paradigm of mutual cooperation that does not wither when convenient, then I am on board for working together. At around 3 minutes and 39 seconds of part 2, you get into this white guilt drama crap. Now, I have constructed long ago a dedicated video regarding this topic. My position has not changed, and I will add this to this video. So if anybody's interested in how I see white guilt, please view the video. I'm not going to rehash it here. This is long enough. let's be clear about something. When a black person, speaking of the ones I personally know, make reference to historical fact, we do not have an agenda of playing on one's sympathies. It has become fashionable on social networks as this, especially to jump to conclusions regarding this topic. Just like it is important to fight those that mean us, meaning non-elites, us, harm. Part of maintaining distinctions in culture is the accurate documentation of history. For the use of history could change things for the worse if fact is not appropriately provided. It can be a tool that can prevent this rainbow of violence if used properly. It can also be a tool to help everyone leave this reservation, because then they'll be able to make connections, they'll be able to strategize, they'll be able to create systems based on the knowledge that history provides us that will allow us to combat certain ignorances within ourselves and with others. I think I made my point. We're getting close to my destination here, so I'm going to wrap this up. Immigration is a complicated subject. I hope to tackle this in the future. I will only make this comment regarding it. I acknowledge that illegal immigration exists, and I am well aware that it affects every state in the Union. I also know that legal immigration, depending on sheer volume, could negatively impact all of us and could be severely crippling. I will leave it at that for now. No, I cannot say that I agree with you when you wish to claim we should get on the bandwagon and proclaim how wonderful it is that white people open up the borders. No. This has, no relevance for me. My family has been documented as ones that were brought over here for cheap labor. So, I will again state, America, of course, was not called such before the Pilgrim invasion. However, the land that is now known as America is not a white nation. White Americans could never make it so because they acquired this land via trickery and violence. Am I trying to make someone feel guilty? No, I am stating a fact. They further complicated issues, white Americans of the past that is, by bringing others like my ancestors here illegally. So that shouldn't be a problem. If we're going to discuss differences between the races, then we should be able to discuss history, not to use it to hang each other, but to grow and to move forward. Just like if I was the state, there is what appears to be an epidemic of unwedded mothers within America, and especially within the quote-unquote black race. That would be a factual statement that I could justify with evidence. But it is not something that is meant to be said in order to hang over black people and to make them feel bad. The fact of the matter is that individuals make decisions within groups. Collectives of individuals comprise a group. Yet, we are only speaking of individual action that is seen on a mass level. I have no issue with that. Do you? Your stance on immigration, by the way, seems like a backdoor plan for establishing a theocracy. And I know that you don't have a problem with that, but I sure do. I cannot support a political unit governed by officials that are thought to be divinely guided. Heck, Rudy, just cut to the chase and welcome back rule by divine right. Well, I had a couple more things to say, but I'm at my destination now. Thank you for listening attentively. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address these things. And thank you, YouTube, for listening. Be well.